Welcome back to Podcast Royal. Before we get into all of it, and boy, is there a lot of it randomly, this is a big week for anniversaries and birthdays. So we wanted to start by wishing the Prince and Princess of Wales a happy 13th wedding anniversary on April 29th. We've got Princess Charlotte's birthday on Thursday, May 2nd. And then we've got Prince Archie's birthday. He'll be 5 on May 6th, which is next Monday. And Charlotte will be 9, which is incredible. So lots to celebrate. This is like the big week or season of celebration. So, how are you this week? I get to see you on Saturday, which is so exciting because it's been way too long.
I know. Oh my gosh, it is so great here right now. My city is, the weather could not be more perfect. I think the pollen has died down. We are,
Mm.
you know, in that like, I don't know, mid 70s, great weather. So it just feels like a really fun time of year. Like you said, we've got all the celebrations coming from our royals and a lot of good fun news this week.
Yeah, it's a good news week. And listeners, you know that Jessica and I lived in the same city for years and years and years until I just moved in December. So we used to see each other, like once every week or two. And now, like, I haven't seen you in 100 years. So I can't wait to have some time with you. But let's start with some good news. So we're going to kick off the royal rundown with King Charles and his health updates. So for whatever reason, midweek last week, reports about the king's health were really frightening. Did you see this? That they were like
Yeah.
revising funeral plans and like so
Mhm.
on, and it was just really disheartening. Well, I'm happy to tell you that those reports were rubbish because on Friday, Buckingham Palace released a wide-ranging update on King Charles. The news was overwhelmingly positive. So let's get into it. So the palace said that Charles is set to return to public engagements. Doctors are pleased with his progress in his cancer treatment. And today, Tuesday, the king poignantly made a public facing visit to a cancer treatment center today, as we record today, Tuesday, alongside his wife, Queen Camilla. They met with medical specialists and patients for about an hour and emphasized the importance of early cancer detection and learning more about the support they offer at the University College Hospital Macmillan Cancer Center. So, this is the first official public engagement since the king himself was diagnosed with cancer, which he announced, of course, publicly on February 5th. So, since his diagnosis, he has continued working and hosting small audiences, but it hasn't been public facing. And, we did see him at Easter church service, but that was kind of a one off situation. Today, the 30th, is his first public facing engagement. It is a milestone. So, royal aides stressed that while the king's appearance in public shows that people can continue to work with cancer and can return to work when they're deemed able to do so by doctors, everyone has their own path as they're treated for the condition. So, this visit marks the first in a number of external engagements that he will undertake in the coming weeks. And a spokesperson for Buckingham Palace said that His Majesty's treatment program will continue, but doctors are sufficiently pleased with the progress made so far that the king is now able to resume a number of public facing duties. Forthcoming engagements will be adapted where necessary to minimize any risks to His Majesty's continued recovery. And the palace confirmed that the king was greatly encouraged to be resuming some public facing duties, very grateful to his medical team for their continued care and expertise. So I'm going to stop there for a second and let you weigh in before we get into a little bit more like the photo that he and Camilla released. So this is good news. What did you feel like when you heard this on Friday?
I agree. I think it's great news. The story about the changes to his funeral plans just reminded me so much about how hungry the media is to publish clickbait.
Yeah.
It's kind of a callback to some things that happened, with the Princess of Wales a few months ago. And they put so much weight on going viral or getting lots of views on an article to the point that I think they'll take stories to the extreme or take
Mhm.
things out of context, which makes it really hard to trust the media.
Yeah.
I think it's very possible he did make updates to his funeral plans, but it's not uncommon for people to do that. I mean, people
Sure.
update their wills, their financial accounts, all kinds of different things. So, it doesn't mean that something bad happened. And I am really glad to see this statement come out from Buckingham Palace. He and Camilla, they looked really happy in the photo that was taken.
Mhm.
So, I'm really hopeful we'll see him at some more events this spring and summer. Like, I know we've got Trooping the Color coming up and we're all looking
Mhm.
forward to that.
Mhm.
And I think I think putting out an announcement like this that he's back to work and he's doing well, I think it really does a lot to boost the public mood. If we see him out and about more and more, I do think it will help minimize some of that feeling that, and I don't know the best way to say this, but sometimes it can feel like if we know some of our favorite royals we're used to seeing aren't there, the event could feel a little anticlimactic, you know?
Mhm.
So hopefully that it minimizes some of that. And I think we've seen him, you know, working behind the scenes. We've had a lot of royals at these sort of typical week to week engagements, you know, with the exception of Easter. And so we're going into spring and summer. We've got these big fun events coming up, events that bring in a lot of tourists and get the public really excited. And I think that, you know, if we can expect to maybe see him pop up at some of these, I think that gives the public a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. And in its statement on Friday, the palace also announced, this is exciting, that the king and queen will host their majesties, the emperor and empress of Japan, for a state visit in June. And alongside this announcement, they released this gorgeous new photograph of the king and queen that were taken to celebrate their first anniversary following the coronation, which was last May 6th. That's next week. How has it been a year since the coronation? And my God, what a year
Yeah.
it has been since the coronation. But the photo was taken in the Buckingham Palace garden on the morning of April 10th. That was the day after Charles and Camilla celebrated 19 years married. The photo was taken by Millie Pilkington, who will come up again later in this episode. She is a favorite of the Prince and Princess of Wales, and has photographed their children, has photographed them. And in the statement, it was said that the king and queen are deeply grateful for the kindnesses and good wishes from around the world throughout the joys and challenges of the past year. So as you just mentioned, Jessica, Trooping the Color, Royal Ascot, Buckingham Palace garden parties, all of those things are revving up as spring turns into summer. The King's attendance has not been confirmed yet, but, and this is from Buckingham Palace again, planning continues for ways in which their majesties may attend such summer and autumn engagements, though nothing can be confirmed or guaranteed at this stage. So briefly, because the royals are back at work, which is very exciting. Camilla had a really cool engagement this week. It was actually yesterday, the 29th. She hosted the maiden yacht crew at Clarence House to celebrate their win in the Ocean Globe race. So the maiden crew became the first ever all-female crew to win an around the world yacht race, which I didn't know there was such a thing, but I guess there is, this month after they departed 153 days prior back in September 2023. So even more historic, this crew is the most diverse professional sailing crew to ever sail the world. So pretty good news all the way around from the king and queen. Any additional thoughts from you? Because this is good stuff.
Yeah, you know, I don't think that and I'm going back here to the garden parties and Trooping the Color, and I really hope we'll see King Charles at Trooping the Color. But I was sitting here thinking, I don't think we should expect to see the Princess of Wales at a lot of these events this summer. We
Yeah.
all know she really deserves to be recovering at home. But I was thinking, what would be a really fun way to have her presence at some of these events? And I was thinking about, you know, the garden parties. We see her at those a lot, and I thought it would be so much fun if there was a way, a creative way to honor her, so she's got some sort of presence without, you know, physically being there.
Mm-hmm.
I would really love to see the palace do something like display flowers from gardens around
Hmm.
Adelaide Cottage, or maybe display if she has photography she's taken in the past of flowers or something like that. Would be really, really
That's really
kind of
cool.
exciting.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I mean, we know that she's a keen photographer. I'm sure that I mean, in all these years has taken many photos of the gardens, and she has. So
Mhm.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think if there was a way to bring her in without actually making her have to do any work, it would be a lot of fun for the public. But anyway, either way, we've got a lot to look forward to this summer, and I am glad we've had this great news on King Charles come out of London, because last week, Rachel, we had some weird and kind of scary news come out of London, and I
Yeah.
know you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, this was a crazy story.
So last Wednesday morning, media outlets were notifying the public that these 5 horses escaped from a morning military exercise near Buckingham Palace. And to be more specific, I actually read in the Telegraph, they reported that they were part of rehearsal exercises for Trooping the Color.
Mm.
So that's kind of why we're talking about it here. It's a little bit relevant.
Mhm.
But I got online that morning on Instagram and I was greeted with these very disturbing videos
Yeah.
of these horses galloping through the streets of London. One of them was a white horse and it was drenched in bright red blood.
I
And
saw that.
it was so jarring that early in the morning when I saw that. I was really kind of taken aback. I had to rewatch the video just to make sure it was actually real. But apparently, the horses were part of the household cavalry, and they were spooked by a loud noise from some nearby construction work being done, and it caused them to throw the servicemen who were on them, and they escaped into the city, which still sounds kind of wild to me. But I heard a couple of the horses managed to travel nearly 5 miles away from where they were rehearsing.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the event wasn't completely without injury. So we saw the horses crashing into a double-decker bus. I think there were some other vehicles they collided with, which I'm assuming is the cause for all the blood we saw on the white horse. And I also read that 4 people were injured. I will say I'm happy to report the horses were eventually captured. They were later treated by a veterinarian, and I haven't heard any follow-up since then, but thought it was really interesting that the horses were selected for this particular job because of their temperament. And I was thinking, a military horse should be able to tolerate these noises. So I have to imagine it was quite a startling noise.
I mean, you have to think so because yeah, they're trained to be able to. I mean, Trooping the Color is filled with noises. It must have been really jarring for them.
Well, I did share the video on our Instagram account, but I tried to be nice and I did put a content warning up because I didn't want anyone to be shocked like I was. I
Yeah.
tried to cover up anything that would make someone's stomach turn, but they barely missed some people walking and riding scooters in the city. And I was just thinking, could you imagine being in London, walking to work one morning and see horses galloping toward you? I don't know what I would do.
No, I can't. And that white horse with the blood on him just is a very jarring image to watch, from a million miles away, let alone if that's rambling towards you. So I'm glad that no one was, more seriously injured. And, we care about the horses, we care about the people. It's just really, really jarring. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if that wasn't crazy enough, I also read last week that the Big Ben clock apparently stopped working for a few hours. And I think it also occurred on the same day, on Wednesday around 9 a.m. The clock chimed an incorrect number of times that didn't match the actual time of day. Then it proceeded to stop keeping time altogether and was frozen at 9 a.m. until I think sometime after 10. So interestingly, they just spent around 80 million pounds doing some restoration work to the clock. But they did have service people come out. They got it working again. And I will say this isn't the first time that the clock has frozen briefly like this, but just kind of an interesting set of events going on the same day last week. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really put much stock into this, but is Mercury in retrograde or something like that? Like, what is going on? Like, it's just something's off kilter here. That's very, very weird. Well, William is back to work. He's fully back to work. He's sharing dad jokes, or I guess kid jokes. It's Charlotte's favorite joke, and it's really good to see him back, and especially making jokes while he's at it. So, in honor of Princess Charlotte's ninth birthday tomorrow, Thursday, May 2nd, I'm gonna share her favorite joke. This is going to be a little bit, I'm going to ask for some crowd participation. Will you help me?
Sure.
It's a knock knock joke. So that those don't really work solo. But anyway, so this joke is told by Charlotte's dad while on a visit to St. Michael's Church of England High School on Thursday, April 25th. So William was asked to tell a dad joke. He delivered. So it's a knock knock joke. So he began the joke with knock knock, and the students answered
Who's there?
as is customary for a knock knock joke. William then said, interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow who?
Boo! I totally like bombed that joke. I'm not good at this anyway. I almost forgot to interrupt you.
I,
Before
I tried to say it slowly and
I
I was like,
know.
when's she coming?
Is she coming in? Anyway, so before they could finish, if you didn't get the joke, which I bombed, before the students could finish asking the question, William actually has good comedic timing and he interrupted them with moo, and the students giggled. I mean, that is a kind of a dad joke. It's actually kind of funny. But William said that's the greatest one I could think of. It's clean and broadcastable. So that's pretty, I haven't told a knock knock joke in 100 years. So what did you think of his joke, or really Charlotte's joke?
Well, I have to say, I think your version might have been better.
I don't
As
know.
far as making me laugh. My first reaction to his joke was wah wah. And I was
Yeah,
like, that's a bit overdone. And then I remembered that that is actually what qualifies a joke as being a dad joke. So I
true.
guess it was pretty appropriate. I think the mark of a successful dad joke is that it does elicit that wah wah kind of response. So we'll call this one a win, and my bad for expecting something more clever.
Well, as the youth say, William, I guess, understood the assignment. You're more cool in Gen Z speak than me, but so he actually visited the school after a boy named Freddie Hadley, who was sitting next to him as he told the joke. Freddie invited William to an event for male mental health last fall, and he asked William on social media if he could support the school's hashtag Am I Manly Enough campaign, which encourages boys to discuss taboos and stigmas surrounding their mental health. So you know what? It just goes to show that sometimes a DM really pays off. William even told Freddie, your letter worked. So shoot your shot, people.
Wow.
You just never know. So then later that same day, William went to Woodgate Valley Urban Farm to learn more about various initiatives in the area that support mental health. So well, there he met Snowflake the guinea pig. I do love how royals share these anecdotes about themselves and their family while doing the most random activities. So William is stroking Snowflake, the guinea pig, while he's talking, and he divulged that George, Charlotte, and Louis not only have a guinea pig, but that they, as children do, always forget to clean up after the guinea pig, leaving him to do it. So, what do you think about this? They've got Orla the dog and they've got a guinea pig.
I think we've all been there, right? We've all wanted the hamster or the bunny rabbit or the goldfish. And then the first time you have to clean a cage or clean the water in the bowl, you kind of rethink your decision. But I think it's pretty funny to think about the heir to the British throne cleaning up after a guinea pig. It's very relatable, very down to earth. And I
Yes,
wonder what other pets they have around Adelaide Cottage. Surely there's more than that.
probably.
But yeah, I mean, I think I have to admit all of us non-royals are probably thinking if I were, a prince or princess, I would probably just pay someone a lot of money to clean up the guinea pig for me.
Correct. Yes, I would.
But I think anytime they share a story like that, it makes people smile. So I love it.
Yeah, I love those little anecdotes they share at engagements.
Well, we've been talking about everyone back to work this week, and I do have to say, one of our busiest royals right now is the Duchess of Edinburgh. She actually this week traveled to Ukraine as the first member of the royal family to visit the country since the start of the Russian invasion. So that's pretty cool.
That's huge. That's really huge. And the reason she was there was really good. She was doing work with men, women, and children impacted by the war, and also helping support survivors of conflict related sexual violence, which she continues to. She just is amazing. It's not a secret that I love her.
Yeah, she's been doing a lot. And I also want to mention something that she did last week. So she was out and about in London and she had her own
I
little
loved
Beatles
this, by the
moment.
way.
Yeah, okay, first we have to talk about the gorgeous Beulah London dress she was wearing.
Gorgeous.
Did you see that? Oh my gosh.
Oh, I saw it.
So
And yeah, she's great.
she was at the Orbis Visionaries reception at Abbey Road Studios in London. And while in the neighborhood, like I said, she stopped to take a photo at the Abbey Road crossing, kind of recreating that iconic 1969 Abbey Road album cover that the Beatles
Mm-hmm.
did. It's a picture I think probably everyone listening to the podcast can think of as we're describing it. But the dress was this bright coral color. It had bell sleeves, some button detailing up the side, and a pretty high split that went right
Mm-hmm.
above the knee.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when we see a split like that, it's pretty rare for royals, but I did really like this dress. I thought it was the perfect spring look. I thought it was really fun to see her creating the Beatles photo. And I have to
Mm-hmm.
ask you, Rachel, are you a fan or do you have a favorite Beatles song?
Ooh, yes, I'm a fan. If it comes down between the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, it'll always be the Beatles for me. I hope that doesn't alienate listeners. I like the Rolling Stones too, but man, do I have a favorite Beatles song? There's so many. 8 Days a Week. I want to hold your. I like the older Beatles stuff, like She
Yeah.
Loves You, all that stuff. What about you?
So the Beatles are one of those things that I feel like every time I hear one of their songs, I enjoy it. And I always forget I don't know. It's like I always forget about them, but then I hear their music and I'm like, man, this is great. I can't think of a favorite one off the top of my head, but my sister and I were on vacation a year or two ago now. We went to a resort and they had a Beatles cover band one night, and
That's
I thought
awesome.
it was going to be goofy, but it was actually so much fun. We ended up dancing and every song was great.
Yeah, I love like please please me, PS I love you, like the early, I mean, not that the later stuff isn't great, it is, but I just like the poppy stuff. I don't know, I like that era of the Beatles.
Yeah, and our friends at the Tina Buddy podcast, they're big Beatles fans. They were our one of our very first interviews that we had
That was
on the
our very
podcast.
first
Yes.
interview, if I'm not mistaken. They're great, and shout out to them because they're so supportive, and we love you guys. You guys are great.
Yes, they do a lot of British culture on their show, and I tagged them in our Instagram post about Sophie because I knew they would love seeing that picture. So,
Yeah, that's a cool cultural moment. That's and plus she looks gorgeous. One of my favorite. I love Beulah London. She like that's one of my favorite looks from her, and I like pretty much all of Sophie's looks. So
well, back to the event. So she was attending the reception because she's the global ambassador for the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness. And eye health and vision, we know, is a really big area that she's passionate about. She's been involved in this for a long time. I know listeners probably remember we reported on the podcast last year she visited Ethiopia. I think it was in the fall for World Sight Day, and she connected with the Orbis charity and she learned about causes, screening, and treatment for trachoma and the work being done to eliminate that by 2030. So I think this was a really great move of Buckingham Palace to share that photo of her at Abbey Road on their Instagram account. And I hope she got to jam out to some Beatles at this event. But you know, Rachel, as I'm talking about jamming out to the Beatles, I'm thinking, don't you have
I can't take this seriously. Go ahead.
speaking of jam, don't you have some very juicy news for us next?
Yes, my God, that was like, I don't know if that was like the best transition or the cheesiest transition. I'm not sure. But yes, we're going to talk about the strawberry jam of it all. But before we get into that, so I do want to drop, I'm calling this the Sussex Corner, some quick Sussex updates. So Prince Harry last Wednesday paid tribute to Sergeant First Class Elizabeth Marks. He presented her with the prestigious Military Times Soldier of the Year award in a virtual appearance that appears to have been filmed in the backyard of his home in Montecito. So, if you saw this picture, listeners, and you're like, what medals does Harry have on? Well, let me tell you, he wore 4 medals on his chest. Wanted to point out what they are. They are the Operational Service Medal for Afghanistan, the Queen's Golden Jubilee Medal, the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal, and the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Medal. So I have a feeling, listeners, maybe you were wondering about that and just hadn't had the chance to look it up. So there you go. And congratulations to Sergeant First Class Marks. Also, it was confirmed this week that Harry will be in London on May 8th, giving a reading at the 10th anniversary service of the Invictus Games, which he founded in 2014. So there will be a service at St. Paul's Cathedral to mark the milestone. Interestingly, that's where his parents were married in 1981. So then shortly after, he and Meghan will travel to Nigeria together. And Meghan will not be in the UK, by the way, but she will be with him in Nigeria. They will highlight the Invictus Games there as well, meet with service members, take part in a variety of cultural activities, and are there on behalf of Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, which is the country's highest ranking military official. So last year, if you'll remember, Nigeria, as well as Colombia and Israel, were the newest countries added to the Invictus Games back when it was in Dusseldorf last September. Okay, so as Jessica mentioned, this is just kind of honestly to light like for fun. This is not that serious, but as Jessica mentioned in a previous episode when we were discussing Meghan's lifestyle brand American Riviera Orchard, Buckingham Palace has been selling goods for a long time through the Buckingham Palace shop.
Yes.
So just as the world collectively waits for one more celebrity or influencer to reveal that they were one of the 50 to get that strawberry jam sample from American Riviera Orchard, we've got Kris Jenner, Chrissy Teigen, Tracy Ellis Ross, Mindy Kaling, Delphina Blackier, who is Nacho Figueras' wife, Tracy Robbins, Abigail Spencer, Kelly McGee, Zash, Dashman. Anyway, Buckingham Palace. There's others that have come out, but there are people out there actually, Jessica, that are like that have like a roster of 50, and they're like, because you know how the jam jars say like 9 of 50
Mm.
or 12 of like people are actually filling out like as people like I'm just like God, I want that much time, and I am a royal correspondent, so like if you guys, good for you guys, if that's your hobby, then go for it. Anyway, so Buckingham Palace last week, I think it was last Wednesday, the 24th, is promoting its own strawberry jam on social media in a clip. Interestingly, people got a lot of traction out of this, set to Mozart's Dissonance Quartet. So you can read its stats, what you will. So again, yeah, last Wednesday, the Buckingham Palace shop wrote on Instagram, our strawberry preserve is made using only the finest berries and is delicious, served in a variety of ways. Then they put a strawberry emoji. So the shop offers different ways to use it. As someone in the video clip, someone spreading the jam onto a scone, the Mozart's Dissonance Quartet is playing, and they say or write whatever. Some of our favorite ways are shown here: on a scone as part of a cream tea, on a crumpet with a croissant, or on toast. So then again, this is just such like this is like what is life like. Anyway, cans of the Buckingham Palace strawberry preserve can be purchased at the palace in person online gift shop. We've talked about the Buckingham Palace shop before. And according to their description, it's made in the UK using only the finest soft fruit. I would expect nothing less from Buckingham Palace. So the spread, according to the explanation, why am I going on and on about this, is delicious on toast, perfect with scones at afternoon tea time, or just right inside a Victoria sponge cake. So they also have honey. I'm just curious why they chose strawberry jam. They also have like honey preserves, marmalade, other products available at Buckingham Palace, obviously, and then at the Palace of Holyrood House in Scotland, and then Windsor Castle also. So in the Buckingham Palace shop jam costs, I think, like almost £4 or something like that. And Meghan's product isn't available to buy, so we don't know how much that's going to cost. So okay, a lot of people said that this was throwing shade. Maybe it was an attempt to bond through jam, or is this just nothing at all? I'm curious of your thoughts.
First of all, I need to go take a break to make some toast because all this talk about jam
It
has
looked
me
really good, I gotta say.
hungry. No, so okay. One of my little royal pet peeves, I see this so much in the media. So many outlets do this where they try to draw connections to everything that the royals do. It's like something is always some kind of a strategic gesture or a nod or a hidden message or show of support. And I really just don't always think that's the case. I think a lot of times things are just coincidental or they're made out to be a bigger deal than they are. I will say this particular move I think was strategic, and I honestly think it was a good one. So, I don't think King Charles or any members of the royal family have anything to do with this kind of decision. I think they're probably minimally involved, if at all, with the marketing and merchandising across their gift shops. I'm sure the king is consulted on big decisions or changes, but day-to-day sales and marketing, they've hired a team that manages all of that. So, I'm thinking back when I was in sales, our company CEO never reviewed my emails or phone calls or asked questions about how I brought in business. As long as it's ethical, it's honest, it's in line with company
Mm-hmm.
standards, new business is a win. So to me, I don't see this as throwing shade or bonding. I think it's a business decision. They've been selling these products for years. They did it first. They have the product available and in stock. And I think they seized an opportunity to bring in more business, which I think is pretty smart. So, like you said, the product is affordable. It's just under £4 for a jar. They said it's high quality ingredients. It's actually so authentic, Rachel. They have a disclaimer on their site that says some fruit stones may still be in the jar.
Mm,
And best of
interesting.
all, income from these items in the shop does go toward the Royal Collection Trust, which we know is a registered charitable organization. So, like you also said, Meghan's product is not available for purchase. So I also kind of think that a lot of the target audience buying Buckingham Palace preserves are probably not American Riviera Orchards target anyway. I feel like you know, if you want to buy Buckingham Palace jam or preserves, like you're going to buy it regardless.
You can
So,
buy both jams. You can actually do that. I mean, you can't currently because
yeah.
Megan's isn't for
Well,
sale, but when it is for sale, you can have both jams. It's okay. It doesn't all have to be a competition.
I think if they see a really big jump in sales right now, then they're doing what they should be doing as a business, you know, and I couldn't help but think of that line. It's not personal, it's business. And I know everyone's thinking of The Godfather when they hear that, but the rom-com princess that I am, all I can think of is Tom Hanks and You've Got Mail quoting The Godfather. So
Great move. Two great movies, but You've Got Mail in particular.
but back to the jam. So, you know, we really don't have a lot of information about the product that Megan sent out, except that it appears to be that this first batch has 50 jars, like you said, and an unknown, you know, number have been gifted to influencers. I mean, I assume 50 of them were given away. We haven't had 50 people come out yet, but currently there's no product available for purchase. And I don't really know what that means for, I'm going to call them RO's business strategy. You know, we really don't know if they actually plan to sell this specific product. If I had to take a wild guess, I would say probably one of the first episodes of her cooking show will have her making this jam,
Mm-hmm.
possibly alongside a celebrity or something. So I think there are still a lot of unknowns, and I just don't think it's fair to criticize Buckingham Palace Shop for you know, getting creative and making a sale. Like I said, they've been having marmalades and preserves in their shop for decades. So that's my 2 cents. What do you think?
First of all, I just thought of this. What if you're, because you know, all these people, celebrities, influencers are coming out on social media and they've got their jam jars and it's like, what, like 22 of 50. What if you're number 50? Like, you're just like, oh,
Ouch.
ouch. Like, okay, I guess I was the last person she thought of. But anyway, first of all, like I said, not everything has to be a competition. I don't think it's that deep. I think you're right. I think I'm not a marketing professional, but everybody's talking about the strawberry jam right now because people are truly invested for whatever reason in trying to, you know, like piecemeal who all is getting this jam and like literally making a chart with, you know, filling in the numbers, which I wish I had that much time. But I think that, like, why not capitalize on something that's in the news right now? Like, it's not shade. It truly is pretty strategic and smart. So yeah, not everything has to be a competition. Not everything is, you know, a battle royale, no pun intended or kind of pun intended. And yeah, it's just like if it's in the national or international conversation right now, why not sell some jam jars? You know what I, because you can't even buy Megan's jam right
I
now.
was going
Like,
to say any business would do this, and it does bring into question, you know, again, back to the strategy. Why are they putting out the jam if you can't buy it? You know, is there a plan for it to be available for purchase? I mean, it may be that, like I said, this product is not even going to be one of the products. Maybe it's just
I'm
something
sure
that
it
she makes on
is.
her show.
I'm sure it is eventually, but I think that, yeah, I don't doubt that there will be like a strategic rollout with the show and all this stuff. Anyway, I think that, you know, again, you can have it both ways. You can have Megan selling jam and you can have the Buckingham Palace shop selling jam, and everyone can live happy eating this jam. And I'm really hungry right now. Like, I skipped lunch and I want a scone with jam on it. I don't care whose jam it is. Just give me some good tasting jam. Anyway, so there's that. There's your little juicy news story of the week. I think it's a big old nothing burger, and I think it's a strategic, smart move on Buckingham Palace Shop's part. I agree with you. Okay, so as we close the royal rundown, as we know, April 29th, Monday, this past Monday, marked 13 years since William and Kate's royal wedding back in 2011. To mark the occasion, the couple released a never seen before black and white photo from their wedding day. They credited it to Millie Pilkington. We told you she'd come back up again. She's a royal favorite. So they captioned the photo very simply 13 years ago today. And while most people know that Kate had a wardrobe change throughout the day, so obviously we had her gorgeous Alexander McQueen wedding gown. We've talked about this on the show before, how she changed into a different dress for her reception at Buckingham Palace. William apparently also had an outfit change as the day went on. I know we got a DM on Instagram on this, so Listeners, you'll remember that William wore the red tunic of the Irish Guards, which he was colonel in chief at the time. Now that is a role that belongs to Kate, but he later changed into the black uniform of the Blues and Royals, which you see in the recently released photo from Millie Pilkington. So there's the answer to that question. It's a different uniform, and I don't think a lot of people knew that. I feel like I vaguely knew that, but I think more people know about Kate's outfit change than William's. So gorgeous photo. That was a great day, and happy anniversary to the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Happy anniversary. You know what struck me in that
Hmm.
photo?
What's that?
I don't know why. For some reason, I just noticed how young they looked.
They do. I mean, there's been a lot of life lived and three kids from then to now. And William's hair, God bless him, his hair. He's lost some hair over the years, but you know what? Haven't we all lost or gained something in the past 13 years? But yeah, 13 years. That's and the so you know how um every year has like a different theme or a different gift that you're supposed to give the other
Yes.
person or whatever. Like the first year is I think paper or whatever. 13 is lace. And so that makes me think of Kate's dress because there's obviously a lot of lace detailing. So I wonder what one gets someone, what do you get a male lace related for your anniversary? I don't have these answers.
Well, it depends on their interests. You could get them like a handkerchief with lace.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
I know.
That's a good idea. But I think that, and this is way too granular, but I think that the lace is supposed to symbolize that you have to be delicate with your relationship and holding it together because lace is delicate. So
Very sweet. Well,
very
you can
sweet.
use your handkerchief to pat your tears of joy as you think about all of your happy memories.
And all that's to come. So happy anniversary.
Let's pivot to our next segment. So we have a listener question this week.
I love it when we get listener questions. This does not happen every week. So cool.
Yeah, we had a follower on Instagram ask us, what is the significance of the Order of the Elephant in Denmark? And this question came up because it popped up in a photo, and occasionally it does. So I thought it was a really good time to talk about it. So we got on Thursday, the Danish royal family released the first official portrait of King Frederick and Queen Mary in their new roles following Queen Margaret's abdication. In the portrait, which was taken in the green room at Christiansborg Palace, both Frederick and Mary are wearing the Order of the Elephant, and they've got it draped over their chest.
This
So
is
I
a
did.
really bad A photo, by the way. This is a cool photo.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was a great picture. And actually I shared it on our Instagram account. And that's where we got the question about the significance of it. So like I said, I was really glad she asked this because I do remember last fall when Crown Prince Christian turned 18, Queen Margaret bestowed the Order of the Elephant on him, and we saw him wear it for the first time. So I do think this is something worth discussing on the pod.
Mhm.
All right, let's talk about this. So the Order of the Elephant is Denmark's oldest and highest order of chivalry. The elephant, and bear with me here because I had to do a little bit of research on this. So yeah, I learned myself going through this, but the Order of the Elephant can be traced all the way back to the 1400s. At that time, there was like a Christian fellowship. I think it may have been a Catholic fellowship specifically, but they had an order that was represented by this badge that depicted the image of the Virgin Mary holding Christ. And the badge was attached to this chain of small elephants, and it was worn around the collar. Well, following the Protestant Reformation, the particular order and badge was suspended, but later on in the 1500s, King Frederick II reinstated this order. And when he did, the original badge was changed from an image of the Virgin Mary and Christ to an ornament in the form of an elephant. So the small elephant, it's only about, I think, 5 centimeters in height. It's not very big. It's made of gold and it's covered in white enamel. It's got a tower on its back. It's got this Moor rider holding a spear, and it's decorated with diamonds across, and it has the monarch's monogram on it. So I know everyone's wondering why an elephant. from my research, it's believed that the elephant was chosen to represent defenders of Christianity as well as purity and chastity. And I'm veering off here from what I read online, but this is just my thoughts and opinions after everything that I read. I sort of wonder if the image of the elephant was inspired by India. So much later in the 1600s, the Danish had a presence in India. But part of me wonders if someone in the 1400s maybe traveled there, maybe they were a missionary, I don't know, maybe something inspired them by the elephant. And that's my thoughts because we know elephants don't live in Denmark naturally. So they had to get that inspiration from somewhere. So I don't know. But anyway, that's all I could find as far as maybe what inspired the actual elephant was that it represented defenders of Christianity, purity, and chastity.
That's really
So
interesting. That's cool.
yeah, very interesting. So the order is almost exclusively bestowed on Danish and foreign royals and heads of state. There have been a few exceptions, though, where non-nobility have received the order. I think there was someone like in the early 2000s, actually, that was a commoner that got it for something that they did. But since the 1500s, close to 900 people have been bestowed with the order. Queen Margaret herself is responsible for 68 of those during her time as queen. And this is another interesting kind of fun fact. When a member of the order passes away, their elephant that they received must be returned to the order to be given to a future member of the order.
Hmm.
So they kind of rotate them out and you can inherit them from someone else who has had one. But there are two of the ornaments, the little elephants, that have been reserved to be on display for the public. So one is at the Chancellery Museum in Paris, and one is here in the US at the Dwight Eisenhower Presidential Library.
In my home state of Kansas, randomly there's it's an ornament. So cool. Random, but cool.
And if you are wondering, who are some of the members of the Order of the Elephant? So in addition to our Danish royals, King Charles is actually a member of this club. And pretty much all the monarchs that we talk about on the podcast. So some of their, some of their spouses as well are included. And some that I saw on the list in addition to those were Crown Prince and Crown Princess of Norway, Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden, Princess Ingrid Alexandra of Norway. President Macron of France was on the list, and I actually scrolled through a few times just to make sure I wasn't making a mistake here, but actually did not see Queen Camilla on it. So I don't know if the list was wrong or if at some point we might see her receive the order since Charles is now king, but that's pretty interesting little deep dive I went into. So thank you for our listener for asking about that because I hope we all learned something. And like I said, that was the best I could do I read several different sites trying to get research on the history of that and what the meaning was. And that's the best I could find. Like I said, I put a little bit of my own thoughts and curiosity on, what might have inspired that, but really interesting.
I love when we go on a deep dive around here. That's really interesting. I always love learning new stuff.
Me too. Well, let's go ahead and move on to royals around the world because I think we've got a lot to talk about here as well.
Yeah, really, this segment has been like really popping off that's a weird way to phrase that, but really popping off and just going gangbusters these past few weeks. So yeah, what have we got?
Well, you mentioned a few of our British birthdays and anniversaries at the top of the show. We've also got a birthday today as we're recording. King Carl Gustaf of Sweden is 78 today. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Why is everybody born like because we had those two oh gosh, Luxembourg and Belgium birthdays, Philippe and Henri. Like, why is everyone born right now? Like, what is, I guess it's like summertime. Summertime when everybody's making babies, I guess. Anyway.
Well, also, we've got another one. So, happy 30th birthday. This is a big one to Princess Rajwa of Jordan.
Yeah.
So, we all know she is a soon to be mom. She turned 30 on April 28th, and we got a new portrait of her. I think we actually got two, Rachel. I think I saw another one floating around online, but this was the first one that was released that I shared in our notes. And in this picture, she is wearing a long sleeve, deep blue velvet. It looks like a dress, but it's a matching two-piece top and maxi skirt. And She's got the top part tucked into the skirt, and then it's kind of gathered at the hip, and there's a sparkling brooch sort of embellishment at the side there. But she's wearing her hair long. She's got it parted down the middle. It's tucked behind one ear, and then the other side, she's got it draped over her shoulder. And she is in diamond earrings. And the other
Mhm.
photo, I believe she was in a black dress with a tiara. I did not pull that one online. I didn't have time to do that. It just kind of popped up later on. But her husband, Crown Prince Hussein, he also shared a different photo of her on his social media account. She is wearing in that picture what looks to be a red collared shirt dress, and it looks like they're maybe on an evening out together. I do have to assume that picture was not super recent because you can tell she's clearly not
Yeah,
pregnant in that picture.
she's not pregnant in this, or if she is, then she's not really showing.
Yeah. But he shared a sweet little message to go along with the photo. So happy birthday to her. She's
Happy
got a lot to look
birthday.
forward to.
Yeah, new decade, big decade.
Yes. All right. So another thing we've got that we want to chat about here real quick. I know last week I mentioned that Finland was on an official visit to Sweden, and I said we would not do a big recap on that since Finland does not have a royal family. But I know a lot of listeners like to hear about Sweden's royal family. And we got some really beautiful images from this event. So I did want to briefly mention it. So we'll run through a couple of things here, but King Carl Gustaf and our dancing Queen Sylvia welcomed the president of Finland and his wife to Sweden. Rachel, did you know that this particular visit from Finland to Sweden is actually a tradition?
I did not know that, but I do know that I was sitting at dinner and Dancing Queen came on, and I told my boyfriend that it was after Queen Sylvia, and he was not as impressed as I hoped he would be with that factoid. He was like, "Okay, who's Queen Sylvia?" So anyway.
Well, so traditionally, when a new president is elected in Finland, they make an official visit to Sweden to signify their special relationship. So we know these two countries are geographically connected and they share a lot of other commonalities. So President Stubb, he was just elected in March, which means he really didn't waste any time at all making
Yeah,
this trip. And he and his wife were welcomed by the Swedish royal family to stay at the King's Castle guest apartment during their visit, where they were met by staff. And this is pretty cool. All the staff were of Finnish descent.
oh,
And
that's
that
cool.
is also a tradition of this particular visit. So, like I said, we won't dive into all the details of the visit, but I did want to mention some of the fun stuff that I think us and our followers really like to talk about. One of those being the banquet, the dinner, the pomp and ceremony. So, the king and queen did host a dinner at the palace like they always do when they have visitors. And when I saw photos from this evening, I mean, my jaw dropped at how beautiful this banquet was. I mean, if you did not see the pictures online, I think I may have shared some on our stories, but crystal chandeliers, gilded walls, silver candelabras, glass stemware. I hope I'm setting the scene. Crisp white linens. They had pink floral arrangements kind of towering over the table. There were printed menus by the table. I could just go on and on over this. It was really, really beautiful. And Rachel, I think I know what you're going to say, but would you like to know what was served at this dinner?
I won't. I don't know if I do because I'm really hungry right now. Like I told you, I skipped lunch, but go ahead and tell me.
Well, we're moving on from jam. We've got a little bit different menu here. So
Uh-huh.
the menu included a course of fresh wrought cauliflower,
Wait a
early
minute. What is
vegetables.
fresh rot?
So
That
I,
sounds terrible. Is that
yeah,
good?
I think it's a Swedish thing. I
Okay.
didn't have time to do a ton of research
I'm
on
gonna
that, but
assume it's amazing, but
I think it was I think it may be some catfish, maybe some catfish of
okay.
some type.
Okay.
Um, But yeah, so okay, cauliflower, early vegetables, dill oil, hollandaise, and lemon. And then the next course was Icelandic sea carrots, shredded peas, potato confit, black currant leaf, and slightly smoked butter sauce. And
Mm.
then we had spring lamb with sage, rosemary, wild garlic, lavender, latva artichoke, barragoul, which I think is a French dish, and then roast lamb. And then
Mm.
to finish it off, the guests were served boiled rhubarb with Tahiti vanilla, lemon verbena, and musk madra. So
This is bad
um,
because I'm really hungry and
I
I want
can't say that I've had
to
all
eat
of
it
that
all.
or that I'm super familiar with all of it, but from what I read, it sounds pretty delicious.
Mm, that sounds amazing. I'm sure that fresh rot is delicious, and just
It may have been, it may have said catfish rot, might have been what it said. And I may have just missed a word there, but I think, I think it's a certain the way, maybe the way the fish is prepared. If we have someone who's familiar with Swedish cuisine,
please
please
inform
email me and
us.
let me know.
Please educate us
I
because
want to know because I did actually look that up, Rachel, and I didn't get like
mhm.
a solid answer, but I think it may be the way that the fish is prepared. So.
Well, I'm sure that it is amazing, just like everything else at this event.
Well, we also had a lovely tiara moment, which I'm going to let you talk about some of that. But I do want to say, so Queen Sylvia showed up in this really stunning hot pink ball gown. It was actually a rewear, but I love this dress. It appeared to me to be made of this like a thick, weighted, structured material. It was fitted at the waist and it had a full skirt. I really liked it. What did you think of this one?
Well, I really like that color, and she looks absolutely beautiful. And yeah, this is a hit for me.
Well, I don't know if you can tell by the picture, so I actually included another close-up picture underneath just so you could see a better view of this. But at the event, the Queen was actually seen in photos with a really unfortunately timed eye issue. So one
Oh
of her
wow,
eyes
okay.
looked super red, like there was blood in her eye, and a lot of people were talking online about what might have happened. And the palace did confirm not to worry. They said she's fine. The redness was caused by a cold draft in her eye, and they said sometimes that can worsen during months of the year when it's cooler outside and warmer inside, and so nothing to be concerned about. But it did make for a few, I think, alarming pictures for people.
Yeah, that does, if you don't know what's going on, that does look a little bit alarming, I will say.
So one more thing before you mention the tiara, I do want to talk about Princess Sophia's dress on the first day of the state banquet when they greeted the president and the first lady. So she was in the cutest, classiest, like lemon lime colored knee-length boucle dress. It had this rounded neckline, gold button details. It's called the Eleanor dress, and I think the designer is Ondiata. I'm not familiar with that designer, but she had it paired with black Versace pumps and a black headband. And I thought this was really a win for me. I thought it was a really adorable look.
This is awesome. This is very, once again, this is very Jackie Kennedy for me.
It
This is
is.
very classic and just, I love that color. I don't think that color would look great on me, but it looks great on her.
I loved it as well. So, okay, tell us about this tiara.
Well, we've talked about Princess Sophia's tiara so many times on this show and how she keeps changing out the settings on it. And this isn't really news anymore, but ever since Jessica reported on Princess Sophia of Sweden's tiara, it's constantly changing settings. I'm now on Tiara Watch, always looking for her to make an update. And as Jessica just reported, state banquet in Stockholm on Tuesday held in honor of the Finland state visit. For this occasion, Sophia debuted London blue topaz gemstones on her palmette tiara. So these new jewels, as People reports, perfectly complemented her navy blue Oscar de la Renta ball gown. They were actually the darkest stones she's ever worn on the tiara. So this was the seventh setting that she has worn on the
Wow.
tiara. Yeah, I know. She received it, listeners, if you don't remember, as a wedding present from King Carl Gustaf and Queen Sylvia when she married Prince Carl Philip in 2015. So she does wear other tiaras. This one, the palmette tiara, is Sophia's favorite. It's kind of like the Cambridge Lover's Knot is for the Princess of Wales. And over the 9 years that Sophia has been in the Swedish royal family, she has worn pearls, turquoise, lighter blue, topaz, and citrines at the top of the palmettes. And she's also sometimes worn it without additional jewels as well. So this is from royals around the world. This is definitely, if not my favorite tiara, it's one of them.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the more fun ones to play with for sure. And I think
Mhm.
as a royal watcher, I find myself looking out for the changes every time she wears it. I want to
Totally.
see what she's done to it. So I actually was thinking I wanted to go back and look at all of the different
I
variations
know.
again and try to pick my favorite of all of
I
them.
know. I want to do like a side by side. Seven different settings. I think that's so cool. Like I wish that the British royal family would do something that like with that much frequency like that. I just think it's kind of fun. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like what color settings is Sophia going to have this time? I think that's kind of fun. Okay, well, as we wrap up Royals Around the World and the episode, Prince, now, okay, I should know how to say this by now. We've talked about him many times. Is it Joachim? How do you say this, Jessica? You usually report on him.
I think that's kind of comes down to like maybe what language do you speak, or how do you say it in your language? When I see this name, I would typically want to say Joachim, but I think I
Mhm.
have heard other people say Joachim. So I don't know exactly how the royal family says his name.
Well, I should probably have done my more due diligence on this, but anyway, Prince Joachim, we'll call him that. It is opening up to the Washington Post of all places, but it makes sense when you realize that his family lives there now. They live in Washington D.C. About how he felt about his kids' titles getting stripped. So this was a huge news story when it happened. We covered it back, I think it was September 2022. No secret to you, podcast royal listeners, about the drama that went down when Queen Margrethe of Denmark unexpectedly stripped her younger son, Prince Joachim's children of their royal titles back in September 2022. There was a lot going on that month. That's the month Queen Elizabeth died, and just a lot going on. But now he and his wife, Princess Marie, are speaking out about it to the Washington Post. They moved last summer to Washington, D.C. with their family, and he took a job at the Danish embassy. So Margrethe, who surprised most, if not all, when she abdicated the throne in January in favor of her eldest son and heir to the throne, King Frederick, Queen Margrethe, shocked Joachim, Marie, and their children, Nikolai, Felix, Heinrich, and Athena, when she made the decision to remove the kids' titles back in 2022. Just as a reminder, Joachim shares his eldest two children, Nikolai and Felix, with his ex-wife Alexandra, and then the younger two children are with Marie. So, beginning in 2023, the four children lost their his or her Royal Highnesses or their HRH status, and they became known as Count or Countess of Montpezat. Excuse me. So, Marie, who again is the mother of Heinrich and Athena and the stepmother of Nikolai and Felix, said that it was this is a quote complicated for the family, and that quote we weren't happy about the way that it happened. So Marie said it was about more than just the HRH title. It's a family thing. She said it's complicated. It's also their name. It's their identity since they were born. So it's more than just what people see as a title. So in DC, Joaquin told the Washington Post that he and his family have the freedom to kind of fly under the radar, which must honestly be nice. He said, "We've lived here for 7 months now, and very few people know who we are, Danes apart." And then a year and a half after Margrethe's decision, Joaquin spoke of his family and he told the outlet decisively, "We've moved on." So maybe we all should too. But anyway, what do you think about their candor here?
Well, I think this whole thing is, and then there's pros and cons to this, but I think there's also probably some misses on both sides. So on one hand, it does feel to me, I don't, I think if the queen wanted to make the decision to remove their titles, I think that, she, I'm sure, had some justification for doing that, given, you know, they're living in a different country, they're separated, and she's done a lot of things that are maybe a little bit different from tradition. She went ahead and
Mm-hmm.
abdicated, and it just really seemed like she's done a lot of planning for her retirement and what she wanted that to look like. So I'm sure she had her reasons for doing that. I do think she probably could have done it in a way that they didn't feel shocked by it, maybe, and I don't know what the circumstances were that led them to not feel like they were given a fair warning. But I also don't really know that it's appropriate or even relevant to be speaking to news outlets in the US, kind of talking about how you weren't happy about it. That feels a little, I mean, we've talked about, going online or
Well,
on
no one's ever
television.
done that before, Jessica.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. And airing dirty laundry like that. And I just don't really see the point. Like, what are you trying to accomplish by doing that?
mhm.
It doesn't seem like the most effective way to handle it if you've got an issue with it. So I don't like that either. But, they may feel like they lost some of their identity, or, that could be a con to them. But like you said, a pro is they have the ability to be sort of anonymous in the US and, kind of build their life how they want here.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that hopefully this is the final word from about this, because as he said, we've moved on, and so we all should too. I know that it was a big deal when it happened. I know that, it's kind of around the time that all the stuff in the British royal family was happening as well, and about titles and this and that. And, I think that the family seems happy here, and that we should probably just tell this story and lay it to rest. And Margaret, for her part, did apologize for kind of blindsiding everyone, but she didn't change her mind. So, Margaret, if we've learned one thing about Margaret, is she's gonna do what she's gonna do. Like, she does what she wants, and good for her. So, yeah, I hope that this is probably the last word about this issue.
And with that, that's our episode.
Good full episode.
Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it. And I know I had a lot of fun. We have a lot to look forward to in these spring and summer months. And Rachel, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few days
Me
and
too. Me
looking
too.
forward to being back with our listeners next week. So,
Yes.
thank you again for joining us for episode 139. And come join us off the podcast on Instagram at Podcasts Royal. You can also reach out to us through email at hellopodcastroyal@gmail.com. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.